Greg Hager is the reigning Entertainer of the Year with the Pro Cowboy Country Artist Association. Greg is a songwriter and an accomplished musician, and he offers original songs with a fresh, authentic Western flair. Greg's music ranges from heartwarming to toe-tapping, and he's a ballad creator and a tall tale originator. Greg presents a musical program that tickles the ears and inspires the heart at the same time. His music and message has a true Western-styled country and gospel focus, and he is a delight for all members of the family. Welcome to the Cowboy Up Podcast, coming to you from Tucson, Arizona, the White Stallion Ranch. I'm Steve Clausen, but I'm sitting here with the brains of the outfit, Russell True. And Russell, how are you today?
That makes me even worry if I'm the brains. Yeah, we're good. You know, we're gonna be through November before maybe we are. Who knows? But we've got Greg Hager back, and we talked to Greg. He's singer-songwriter, and he just got back from Japan. He was 3 weeks, 21 days. I can do that math. 27 programs, it says here. That's a busy 21 days.
That's a lot. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing great. So great to be on the program, fellas. I'm just excited to be here with you.
We so appreciate you taking the time because we know you're very, very busy.
Yeah, you chase a dream, and that dream gives you opportunities, and opportunities takes the investment of time. And but I'm very glad to be with you again today.
Well, sometimes you catch that dream and you think to yourself, "What in the heck have I done?"
Yeah, that's dude ranching right there. I kind of just got lucky. That's all.
Yeah, you got lucky at about 15 or 16 hours a day. So not everybody can get that lucky.
Yeah, you know it doesn't matter because if you don't think about the hours, then it's sort
You're doing
of not
something
relevant.
you love.
People say how many hours do you? I don't know. I could do the math. One thing that you do, Greg, I think that probably is atypical is you write everything you sing. Is that a true statement?
Yes, and that's exactly correct. That whether it be Western music or cowboy music or country music, if a guy wants to look at more modern sound, there are very, very few artists that are 100% original. And one of the dreams that I had, one of the things that I do with my music is I want to tell the story, but not to have other influence in it, that I want to be 100% original with the music, with the lyrics, and to tell that story the way that I feel in my heart is going to be best to tell that story.
And how long have you been doing this?
I have been full-time for the last 15 years. I started writing songs when I was 7 years old. And
wow.
That's also when I learned to play guitar and when I had the dream of using music to somehow make a difference. And for the last 15 years, I've been able to do that on a full-time basis. And like you said with the Dude Ranch, do I have bad days? Well, maybe, but every day I realize I'm blessed to get to use music to make those connections and to pay my bills doing it. So it's great.
Well, and I mean, I think that, we fans, listeners, they think of, the stars, the mega stars, but most people who play music and even write their own music, they don't make a living doing this. I mean, the vast majority of people, they can't. They may even be really good and they don't make a living, but you do, and I mean that's a tall order.
Well, it is, but what I would encourage for the fans, and what I tell often if people ask me, what do you do, Greg? I give them the same advice. One, you have to be willing to work it like your life depends upon it, because it does. If you want this to be your vocation, you've got to figure out, okay, where's a rock I can tip over to find a dollar bill? Where's the next concert opportunity? Where's the next connection that I can make? How do I meet the people that are important to open the doors to the next thing? And what I find in my travels, and I do about 140 concerts a year on the road, is that most people are not willing to work as hard as it takes to make a living at it. And, you know, it's in my case, I don't have any big corporate sponsors. So I have to work even harder to, you know, generate an income off of good songs, well-produced songs, and, you know, finding venues and locations where I can share my music to turn it into a paycheck, and then be smart about the expense side of it so that I can be profitable to make my living doing this.
You know,
most people don't do it. Yeah, go ahead.
Years ago, I read an interview by Suge Knight, the individual that founded Death Row Records, and what he said in the article was that the reason most people in the music business, the reason most of them fail is they think it's 98% music and 2% business, when in reality it's 98% business and about 2% music. How do you feel about that?
I would say that's probably pretty accurate. In fact, you know, I was doing some work for a neighbor yesterday, and we had that exact same conversation. Is you have to manage your expenses no matter what you are doing. And music, while I love it, it's what I live for, making song and melody and connections through lyric and rhyme. But there's the business side of it that lets me actually do that. And that's, you know, even in his business or mine, you've got to look at the expenses. How do I minimize what checks I write so that when I get my paycheck, it's more of mine. It's mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now I was fascinated at the concept of Western music being so big in Japan, and you started to tell me about how that came about, and I thought, no, wait, because this was really, really interesting. It was information I had never heard, and I take a decent amount of pride in what I know about, you know, World War II and history, and I'd love you to go a little bit deep on that, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, and again, this is pretty easily looked up through quite a number of sources, but the nickel version of history is, after World War II ended and General MacArthur was given control of the Japanese islands, he was basically tasked with the job of reprogramming the Japanese people. They had been convinced that the Americans were monsters and that we needed to be attacked and wiped off the earth and so on and so forth, and the kamikaze attacks on Pearl Harbor, so on and so forth. And so what MacArthur did is number one, he brought Christian missionaries into Japan. But secondly, the U.S. government took control of basically everything that went into or was allowed into the country of Japan so that they could realize American values and, in a sense, be reprogrammed that we as Americans were not the monsters that the previous leadership in Japanese government had said that we were. So American Values Television, Bonanza, Fort Laramie, Gunsmoke, The Riflemen, Little House on the Prairie. Up until the 1970s, the U.S. government really controlled virtually everything going in. Same with the music scene, American Values music, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Charlie Pride, Chuck Berry, you know, kind of just great American artists who sang fun songs, but, you know, kind of showing that this is who America is. And so that culture of the American cowboy became iconic because so many of those shows were what was allowed, that the American cowboy shows, The Lone Ranger. I mean, there was moral lessons in every episode, and it was entertaining, but you learned something about how to live, how to act, how to react to your neighbor, how to treat your neighbor, and those values elevated the American cowboy almost on the same level as the Japanese samurai in the mind of the Japanese people. And so I took a picture of it, and I was thinking after we talked the other day, I was going to find it, but there was a crosswalk sign in Tokyo that was clearly an American cowboy grabbing his hat, stepping out into the street. And it's that image of the cowboy. Everybody knows. I mean, they see me walk as like, what's a cowboy doing here? I go to my shows and they're at capacity, whatever the seating capacity is. They want to hear what's the American cowboy going to sing about, and there's just this fascination with the American cowboy.
That's neat. I just love that.
Yeah, my dad, I don't know, it's probably 50 years ago, literally, and he was part of an Arizona delegation tourism based to Japan, and he goes, and my dad was 5'11" and a half, he would be pleased to tell you. He was not 6 foot, and he was not 6'4". And he had his cowboy hat on, and he's walking through, and the Japanese had come running up, John Wayne. And my dad goes, I'm not 6'4", and I don't look that much like John Wayne. But they were pretty excited. They thought he was there. And so it, what would that be, 50 years ago? I mean, it was like probably the 70s or something. And John Wayne would still been really almost the current icon. But anyway, it's funny. They definitely, and I think that parallel, or whatever you'd call it, analogy to the samurai and the American cowboy, because of course Japan is a very morals based, it seems, culture, and very a lot of self-discipline and all that, and so the cowboy has some similarities and some differences for that in that vein.
It certainly does. They live a code, and I have been on 5 separate concert tours in Japan, and each one has been at least 21 days. My longest was 23 days, and about 25 shows on average. So I've spent a significant amount of time with people, not just as a tourism, but with people at various venues and television and radio and those types of things. I don't speak Japanese, so I've had good interpreters to tell me, teach me culture, etc. And that code of living, when I talk about the cowboy way, when I talk about the code that we live in a Western lifestyle, that a handshake means something, that your word means something, the Japanese people very readily identify with duty and honor and pride and self-discipline, and all of those things that we live, in our Western culture, they directly connect with as a way of living and surviving in the country and culture of Japan.
It's kind of remarkable, isn't it?
I think it is. It's amazing.
So I assume, given the level of success you've had there, and 5, I think, tours you said, do you already have one planned, or?
Yeah, I'll be going back. The plan as of right now is late April of 2026.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Just over a year out. We kind of talked as a team. I think it might be a little soon, to try to do something spring. Their summer gets miserable, hot and humid.
Oh, really?
And so it's like the deep south of the United States. And it'll be 100 degrees and 80-90% humidity in the summers, and so outdoor events are a little bit more difficult to draw audiences to, and so spring and fall are the best times to do things. And my team said, let's stay away from summer, let's plan for spring or fall, and because it's middle of November, spring is going to be too soon, and next fall, I said, let's go a year and a half, and then there's better anticipation for people. Hey, Greg's coming back for a 6th tour, and we can have more time to promote the various events with just a little bit more time.
Interesting. Okay, now I'm going to go back just a little bit. At what age did you start actually performing?
When I was 7.
Oh, really?
My family has been a very musical family. On both sides, on my dad's and my mom's side, and as far as singing in gospel events, I have an uncle who is a very successful band teacher and had several music bands himself, and so as a kid, we would always be at some event, and, I was expected to get on the stage and sing a song with my brother or my sister, or even, when very young, we traveled as a family, the five of us. My brother played bass. I toggled between guitar and banjo. My dad would play guitar. My sister played piano, and we'd do music as a family, all the time when I was single digits all the way through graduating high school.
Wow.
And so I've been on various stages for, most of my life, and then coupled with that dream at the age of 7 to use music to make a difference, it's sort of built into the opportunity and the understanding that a stage platform is not a right. It's a privilege, and that I can't ever treat the platform as a right, because it isn't. It's a privilege to be there. And I think that's one of those things that also has contributed to my success, is a lot of young artists think that they deserve to be on a stage, and they don't. It's a privilege, and privileges can be taken away, rights cannot. And you have to respect the opportunity to be in front of people, and the younger people, or people who have a lot of pride involved, think it's a right, and they won't be successful because they don't realize it's my connection at this platform with the people.
Just thinking back on myself, I know that I did my first actual public speaking event when I was an MC of a Christmas parade at a fairly large Catholic school in 5th grade. And by that point in time, I had not developed the necessity to have a fear of a microphone. And I think as people get older, they develop that fear more and more, don't they?
I think possibly, it's so much of life's experiences, there's a first time for everything. And if you have someone to coach you or work you through that fear can either be debilitating, or it can be a motivator, and that it can help you. And I will say publicly, I do. Every time I get on a stage, whether I'm in front of 20 people or a couple thousand people in a grandstand, I have a little twinge in my stomach. And I sincerely pray to God above that it never leaves, because it's my little reminder that this platform is a privilege.
Yep.
And, I'm confident. I go and do it, no problem. But it's just that little butterfly that's like, yes, I'm human. This is a privilege. Go out and do your job. And so that fear for me is not debilitating. It's a motivator to say, yes, go out and do it, but don't be debilitated by it.
Good call.
Well, it's probably like, what would a sports person say? It's being in the zone, and your thinking on your philosophy really on privilege versus a right is, that applies to everything. You think about it, even a president of the United States, the day after his successor's inaugurated, he's not president anymore.
No, that's right.
And that right. Privilege has ended, and that's the way it should be, and that's the way it should be always, as anybody has a privilege of a certain position. So it's the right way to think, and we're going to take a break on that. As everybody who listens to Cowboy Up Now knows, I still shoe some horses, and the easiest shoes to put on and the shoes that make the horse feel the best are the Golden Wings. This specially designed took 10 years, Fred tells me, to engineer these plastic horseshoes. Calling them plastic is probably really minimizing what goes into this. But these horseshoes have compression, absorption, flexibility, and they're problem solvers for horses that need them. And there's really, when we need those on our horses, and of course our horses work, there is no other solution. GoldenWingsHorseshoes.com. They are the answer for any horse that that needs that compression absorption and flexibility. And any horse can wear them. Fred designed them for race horses. So any horse in any discipline, including performance horses, these Golden Wings horseshoes work. I can't recommend them enough. Well, Greg, I see here, I say a few things because we have some notes sometimes, and it says that of course that you're signed by MFG Records, but that your music is in the mold of John Denver, Roger Whittaker, Gordon Lightfoot, Paul Overstreet, Clint Black, and George Strait. That's kind of an all-star cast. Is that a fair statement? Did we get that somewhere correctly?
Yeah, definitely. Musically, my big influences are those artists. Probably number one, Roger Whittaker. Number two, John Denver, and then Gordon Lightfoot. So my finger picking, is modeled a little bit after those three guys. I mean, I play a 12-string, they played a 12-string, so it's kind of a unique sound, unique with finger picking, and it's a very melodic instrument. And as songwriters, they inspired me because they just told stories that I wanted to hear over and over and over again. And then you bring in Clint Black and Paul Overstreet, and they had success because they wrote stories, and people wanted to connect with the story over and over and over again. So yeah, that's exactly accurate.
That's just remarkable stuff. It really is.
Kind of along your lines, I read one time an interview with John Denver years ago, and I think he was poking Michael Jackson a little bit in the chest, and because he was the phenomenon he was at the time, and John Denver said, all I need is a guitar and a stage, and my show's on.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of a big statement. It was short, sweet, but kind of a big statement.
Yeah. You think of what you see as huge stage presentations or productions and all the glitz and glamour and stuff. It doesn't necessarily make the connection with people's hearts. And so I mean, when John Denver said that, I never heard that interview, but I've listened to other things he said. Is just when people connect with the song, they connect with you as an artist because you're the one who wrote it or delivered it. And that's a really powerful, kind of a weighty responsibility is, when someone comes up and says, Greg, this song changed my life. That humbles you to your core because it's like, I'm just me. It's just me. I wrote this song. I'm glad that it made a difference because that was my dream. But, it wasn't glitz and glamour that did it. It was the song. It was the melody. It was the story that was connected with. So I like big shows. I mean, you can learn from those big shows, but in the end of it, if I don't connect with the artist or the music, I don't care if I ever see him again. It was fun once, but I'm not going back. That's what I want is to have people say, wherever you're playing, I want to go to. I mean, I can say in Japan, because people say, how does an American artist make it when you don't speak Japanese? Is people feel your heart, and people would come up and say, I didn't understand everything, but my heart was touched by what you sang, and I need to hear more of it. And I had people come from 4 and 5 hours away to come to a concert because of multiple times because they couldn't get enough of that which touched their heart. And that's what I think it takes to be successful in music. And again, from any business, your ranch there is people come back because there's something there that got deep in their heart, mind, and psyche, and they need to be back and do it again. And it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to inspire that in somebody.
Well, it's clearly working because I'm literally looking at an 8x10 sheet of paper covered with the awards. You're the reigning entertainer of the year, Pro Cowboy Country Artist Association. You've been nominated 11 years in a row as the Western Artist of the Year with the Academy of Western Artists. I mean, it's just a page full of this, and so you've definitely connected, and your peers are seeing it. I mean, you're heavily awarded.
Yeah. Yeah, and I look at those awards not as the end all be all, but they can serve to open a door to greater opportunity. Is oftentimes people, I think, are looking for legitimacy, and sometimes they seek legitimacy as, look how good I am, versus I look at those awards. I mean, I've worked hard to earn the recognition, but each one of those then gives me an opportunity to try to make a difference in someone else's life. And, so I'm glad for the recognition, but I don't live for it. I mean, I don't brag on it. It's a tool, but it's really more, I want to meet the people. I want to connect with the people. I want to, get at the end of my life, whenever that is, and have, no regrets. Have the maybe occasional person say, hey, thanks for being an artist. You really made a difference in my life. And that's greater accolade than any trophy on a wall.
Well, I went through this list, and it is, honest to goodness, it is an exhausting list of awards and nominations. And what it tells me is people are listening, and it's making a long-term, what you are doing is making a long-term impact, and worthwhile to take some time and listen to.
I hope you're right on the big picture.
I evidently am. You've been doing this for how long, Greg?
15 years full time, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I'm probably hitting the nail on the head on this one.
So I'm trying to be diligently humble.
Well, I'm going to circle back. You said there was the 98% music, 2% business, and the opposite. And Jimmy Buffett, I read, he died a billionaire, and he just said, I realized if I was going to make a living in music, I had to be good in business, and apparently he was really good in business. But I don't think I think you've got to factor in work ethic, and you've, just a description of what you've done is exemplifying work ethic, and so you got to have the business sense. Yes, you can't just, throw money at stuff or not be mindful of costs, but there's just straight up work ethic, and I think a lot of people think they play a pretty song with a good bit of guitar music or whatever they're doing, and it's just the money's going to rain down on them, and that's just not how life works.
People don't show up sometimes. I think it's expensive.
Yeah, and it just isn't. So you got 10 albums. You just released your 10th. Is that correct?
It was in last year. The 10th album came out, and one of those is a Christmas album. One is an EP in Japanese. I did some vocal coaching, recorded a couple of songs in Japanese. I've got 3 that are country gospel, and then that leaves the other 5 rather as Western and cowboy. Yeah, not country in the way it used to be, but really a Western style of country story music. And that's my bread and butter to add up with those 10.
Wow. So since you say that makes me think of a question. When I was a kid, it was country western music. Now it's country music, and there's, then as a different genre to some extent, there's west. How do you define those differences, if there is one?
Yeah, about maybe 9 or 10 years ago, I used to say that I was a country and western on my advertising, but some of the very trendy pop country groups started becoming quite popular, the Jason Aldeans and so on and so forth. And I love a lot of their music, and I envy in very respectful ways the level of success, just because they've achieved what all of us sort of look at the dangling carrot. But I didn't want my music to be identified as it rap, is it rock, is it blues, is that what kind of country is it? That country became so many different things under the broad umbrella of country. So I kind of switched my advertising to what the music really was, and it was Western music. That Western music used to all the story of people, life and living and love, cattle, country, elements of faith. The things that really told the story of the people is the Western element that used to be in country music and isn't anymore. And so, to categorically look at myself as a Western styled artist or a Western style of country to try to let people understand, no, this isn't rap, this isn't rock, this isn't blues. You're not going to hear screaming. You're not going to hear profanity. You're not going to hear stuff that's going to be moral, positive music that is not country as has been currently defined.
Yeah, well, I like it.
Well, and I think this probably happens to everybody, right? As they age, I don't like country anymore, and as a whole, and so I was a listener for years, and not so much now. So I think we all just get nostalgic for what we grew up around, and
sure.
So the change has not worn well with me, but obviously they're doing what most people want, and people who have fewer years.
But then again, you were just recently in a music video with Lainey Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and
I wasn't a big part of it, but I was there.
You were. I don't know. I think you're a pretty big part of it, but that is an incredibly popular woman right now, and she's great to listen to. She's very entertaining.
No, and she probably should be.
Yes.
I mean, she really, and from a perspective of a personal level, she had the work ethic. Weather was terrible. I think I've told the story. I mean, weather was terrible. We ran all over the desert on those horses, about as much as you could do. And she never whimpered, whined, nothing. They'd run up and put an umbrella over her if she was standing there, and she'd never ask for it. It was just, oddly, they didn't bring me one, but that's a whole different topic.
Well, you said she was the real deal.
Yeah, she was, and good for her, and she's working, and but it's definitely a different than it was, and that's the evolution of music and everything else we do, and the older you get, the more you don't like what.
Life changes. Life changes.
So where are you going to be? What's upcoming, Greg?
This weekend I'll be up near the Canadian border in North Dakota. Town of Walhalla is having a harvest festival, and I will be doing the music for that celebration of the harvest being done. And then 2 weekends after that, then I've got Christmas shows. Kind of in the upper Midwest here where I call home. And then I've got some time off through the end of the year, and I'll visit family and gearing up for next year. Bookings are trickling in, and of course my website's always the best place, greghager.com, that people can see where those upcoming shows are or where in the world I'm going to be.
And so Greg Hager, that's Greg spelled normally HAGER.com. You have any? I know Southwest isn't where you live. I mean, yet you don't have anything scheduled out in the Arizona section currently.
At this
I know
point,
you've been out.
Yeah, last spring I did. I think it was nine. Ended up being nine shows down in between Tucson and Scottsdale area and that whole chunk of the Southwest. And I have not.
Greg, if you hear us, we're losing you. So I'm sorry, you haven't been out to Southwest since, and then we lost you.
Okay, yeah, I just drove down a deep hill. I did. So you caught me driving, so this works out good. Did I come back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back and good.
Yeah,
it sounds
like going into a valley.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I probably in a year I will make the loop down to the Southwest again. I was there at the beginning of this year, and my early spring next year I go down to Florida, and Texas and Florida, but not Texas and West. So.
Well, I mean, next time you're going to be in Arizona, be sure to keep our contact, and we'll see if we can put something together here. And
oh yeah,
we're not a concert hall, but we've done some shows, and that'd be really fun to get you out here if you're already here, because like you said, you got to make it make sense.
Yep.
So.
No, I definitely will do that, and looking forward to getting down Southwest. The people down in that part of the nation, they're just wonderful. They're beautiful people, and it's you get to live there all the time and experience it, and I get to be a guest and experience it, and I'm anxious to come back.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Arizona. I mean, just for all kinds of reasons, and feel lucky to be here. There's a lot of other, love New Mexico too, but and of course our roots are in Wyoming, but it's too cold for me.
Go figure.
In winter.
Hey, Greg, thank you so much, because I know you're kind of wedging this in between things you're doing today. You're helping a neighbor out and that sort of thing, and I really appreciate you taking time to visit with us today. Thank you very much. Now, where's your music available?
Yeah, if folks want physical copies of my music, they can get that at my website, greghager.com. A lot of people are transitioning over to streaming services, and all 10 of my albums are available on all of the streaming sites, Spotify, Rhapsody, Apple Music, Amazon. Basically anything that pays the artist, I allow. So, folks can check out their favorite streaming service to get connected with my music. And then if they want to connect on social media, Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat or LinkedIn, all of that, just simply Greg Hager or Greg Hager Music.
Excellent. Greg, thank you very much. Russell, do you have anything else for Greg?
Nope. Just see you when you get to Arizona.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look forward to it. Thank you guys
so much
for
Greg.
being on
We
the
appreciate
program.
it. Bye-bye.
Well, that's a wrap, folks, and thank you for being with us for another edition of the Cowboy Up podcast. Thank you to Stephen and Russell, and very much what a great time we had with Greg Hager, and we will actually have one of his songs as we go out for the day. And again, we are here at the ranch celebrating holiday time. It's Thanksgiving time, and we have a lot to be thankful for. And the fact that you come and join us, in fact, many of you come and actually stay at the White Stallion Ranch, is something we are very grateful for. We have many friends from around the world, and many of them listen to this program. And on behalf of Russell True and the family and the many people, fine people, who work at the ranch, we are very, very grateful. And it's time for you to think about making another return trip. So check us out at whitestallion.com, whitestallion.com. So all the best and blessings to you. Till next time, I'm Stan Houston for the Cowboy Spirit Radio Network, thanking you for being a part of the show, and we would appreciate hearing from you. What can we do to make it better? How can we help you? Perhaps you can recommend somebody who would be a great guest for our show. cowboyuppodcast@gmail.com, cowboyuppodcast@gmail.com. Take care. Bye for now.
Rest cannot come if you hang on to what you see around you. The more that you dwell, the worse it gets. This one thing is true. If the battle's not yours, then don't get involved. It's something you can do. Get on your knees and you'll stand tall, and look what God will do. Pray on, don't be in such a hurry. Pray on, peace floods when you can't worry. Do what you can right where you are, faith like a mustard mustard seed will go far. Trust in His grace, have joy, for fear is gone. Breathe out, breathe in, pray on. Steals your peace, leaves emptiness inside, which fills up with anxiousness, fear, and dread, as though a small part died. The longer you live in this state of mind, the harder to get free. The answer is simple to change your life, so listen close to me. Pray on, don't be in such a hurry. Pray on, peace floods when you can't worry. Do what you can, right where you are. Faith like a mustard seed will go far. Trust in His grace, have joy, for fear is gone. Breathe out, breathe in, pray on. Pray on, don't be in such a hurry. Pray on, peace floods when you can't worry. Do what you can, right where you are. Faith like a mustard seed will go far. Trust in His grace, have joy, for fear is gone.